My best friend stole my wedding plans, and now she wants my fiancé too. When I got engaged to the love of my life, Adam, I thought it was the beginning of a dream come true. For years, I had imagined this moment. The sparkling ring on my finger, the joy of planning a beautiful ceremony, and the warmth of celebrating with those I loved most. My best friend Clara was the first person I called after Adam proposed. She squealed with excitement, immediately offering to help me with every detail. At that moment, I felt so lucky to have her in my life. How could I have known that she would be the one to shatter my happiness? It began innocently enough, or so I thought. Clara was always full of ideas and opinions. She had a knack for finding the best venues, the trendiest themes, and the prettiest decorations. "Emily, you have to do something timeless," she said one night as we pored over Pinterest boards at my kitchen table. "Rustic chic is so overdone. Go for something grand, elegant, unforgettable." I trusted her judgment, so I started leaning into her suggestions. She made me believe she cared about my wedding as much as I did. But then the comments started. "Are you sure that's the dress, Em? It's nice, but you could do better. Here, this venue is okay, but don't you think it's a bit basic?" Her tone was always light, almost teasing, but each word planted seeds of doubt in my mind. I started second-guessing everything. Was my taste too simple? Was I aiming too low? Clara's opinions loomed over every decision I made, and I began to feel like my perfect day wasn't perfect enough. Then came the moment I had been waiting for. I booked the venue of my dreams. It was a historic mansion with sprawling gardens, the kind of place I had fantasized about since I was a teenager. When I told Clara, I expected her to be thrilled. Instead, her smile was tight, her excitement forced. "Wow, that's ambitious," she said, her words stinging in a way I couldn't quite place. I brushed it off, thinking she was just tired or distracted, but deep down I started to feel uneasy. A week later, my world cracked open. The venue called to inform me that someone else had booked the same date and outbid me. I was devastated. That venue had felt like a piece of my heart, and now it was gone. I cried to Adam that night, overwhelmed by the loss. But my heartbreak turned to fury when, a few days later, I saw Clara's Instagram post. A picture of her and her boyfriend Liam standing in front of my venue. The caption read, "Can't wait for our big day. So excited to celebrate love at this beautiful place." I felt like the ground had been ripped out from under me. Clara, my best friend, had stolen my venue, my date, and even some of the ideas I had shared with her. My chest burned with betrayal as I pieced it all together. She hadn't been helping me. She had been copying me, waiting for the perfect moment to swoop in and take what I loved most. When I confronted her, my voice trembling with anger, Clara didn't even pretend to be sorry. "You can't own a wedding theme, Emily," she said with a smug smile. "Besides, Liam wanted something special too. It's not my fault if you couldn't hold on to it." Her words felt like daggers. How could she be so cruel, so unapologetic? This wasn't just about a venue. It was about trust, about friendship, about all the moments we had shared that now felt like lies. I tried to move forward, but Clara wasn't done. She started texting Adam under the guise of concern. "Emily's been so stressed," she wrote. "Are you sure she's ready for this wedding?" Adam showed me the messages, but her interference planted a seed of doubt in both of our minds. I began to feel paranoid, wondering if Clara was saying things about me to others, undermining me at every turn. The final blow came at a mutual friend's party. I stepped away for a moment, and when I returned, I saw Clara cornering Adam. Her body language was too close, her voice too soft. Later, Adam told me everything. Clara had confessed that she had feelings for him. She told him she thought they would be perfect together and that I didn't appreciate him the way he deserved. Adam thankfully rejected her and told me immediately. But the damage was done. My heart broke not just for what Clara had tried to do, but for the friendship I had already lost. Cutting Clara out of my life was one of the hardest things I've ever done. She had been my rock, my confidant, the person I trusted with everything. But her betrayal left scars that no apology could ever heal. My wedding day was beautiful, but bittersweet. I married the love of my life, surrounded by people who truly cared for us. Yet in the back of my mind, I couldn't help but feel the shadow of Clara's absence. Months later, I heard that Clara's engagement had ended. Liam found out about her attempts to sabotage my wedding and broke things off. As much as I wanted to feel vindicated, all I felt was sadness. Clara's betrayal had cost us both so much more than a venue or a dress. It had cost us years of friendship, trust, and memories. Sometimes I wonder if she regrets it, but even if she does, I can't go back. Some wounds cut too deep. My sister's secret shattered my trust and changed my view of family forever. When my older sister Sophia moved back to our small hometown, I felt a peculiar mix of happiness and unease. Growing up, Sophia was always the shining star of our family, the one who excelled in school, landed a prestigious career in the city, and seemed to have a picture-perfect life with her husband Ryan. She was everything I looked up to and secretly aspired to be. But in the years since she had left, our once close relationship had become strained. Her decision to return, out of the blue, felt both surprising and suspicious. Still, I didn't push her for answers. I was just glad to have her nearby again. Or so I thought. At first, it felt like a joyful reunion. Sophia would drop by my house unannounced, bearing freshly baked cookies or small gifts for my kids. We'd sit together for hours, sipping coffee and laughing about old childhood memories. It felt comforting, almost like nothing had changed between us. But soon cracks began to show. Her usually confident demeanor seemed muted, her smiles fleeting. I started noticing her hands shaking slightly as she sipped her coffee, her gaze distant whenever the conversation touched on her life in the city, or Ryan. One night, after sharing a bottle of wine at my kitchen table, the truth finally spilled out. Sophia broke down, sobbing so hard she could barely breathe. Between the hiccups and tears, she confessed that her marriage had fallen apart. Ryan had been unfaithful, not once, but multiple times. He had gaslit her, made her doubt herself, and chipped away at her self-esteem until she no longer recognized the woman she once was. My heart broke for her. I wrapped her in my arms, holding her as she sobbed uncontrollably. I promised her that she wasn't alone, that she could rebuild her life here. But even as I said the words, a shadow of doubt flickered in my mind. There was something else she wasn't telling me, something deeper. I could feel it in the way she avoided my eyes. Over the next few weeks, Sophia grew increasingly distant. She stopped visiting as often and instead spent most of her time at our parents' house. It stung, but I told myself to be patient. She was healing, I thought, but the secrecy was suffocating me. What was she hiding? Why was she avoiding me? Whenever I brought it up with our mom, she'd brush me off with vague reassurances. Sophia just needs time. But I wasn't convinced. One evening, unable to contain my curiosity and concern, I decided to stop by my parents' house unannounced. As I stepped inside, the tension was palpable. My mom and Sophia were in the kitchen, their hushed conversation coming to an abrupt halt the moment they saw me. They looked at me like deer caught in headlights. "What's going on?" I demanded, trying to keep my voice calm. But my heart was racing. Something was wrong, and I was determined to find out what. Sophia exchanged a nervous glance with my mom, her face pale. Finally, she took a deep breath. "There's something I need to tell you," she said, her voice trembling. It's about me, about us. Sonarm." The room seemed to close in on me. My stomach twisted into knots as Sophia began to speak, her words slow and deliberate. Years ago, as a teenager, she had stumbled upon something that changed her life, a secret buried deep within our family. While rummaging through my mom's belongings, she had found an old envelope containing a paternity test. The test revealed that Sophia wasn't my dad's biological daughter. She was the result of an affair my mom had when she was young. I stared at her, unable to process the words. Then I turned to my mom, hoping for some kind of denial, some explanation that would make it all make sense. But she just sat there silently, tears streaming down her face. The truth was undeniable. Sophia continued, her voice cracking with emotion. She had kept the secret for years, carrying the weight of it alone. But things had taken a darker turn when Ryan discovered the documents during their marriage. He used the information to manipulate her, threatening to expose the secret to our family and the world if she didn't comply with his demands. It was one of the reasons she had left him. She couldn't live under the weight of his threats anymore. I felt like the ground had been ripped out from under me. Everything I thought I knew about my family, about my mom, about Sophia, was a lie. The woman I had trusted most in the world, the one who had raised me, had kept this devastating secret from us all. And Sophia, my own sister, had hidden it from me for years. The betrayal cut deep. I needed to tell you, Sophia said, tears glistening in her eyes. I couldn't keep it from you anymore. But I didn't know how. I didn't want to hurt you. I couldn't even respond. My throat felt tight, my chest heavy. Without another word, I stormed out of the house, leaving them behind in stunned silence. When I got home, I collapsed onto the couch, overwhelmed by a tidal wave of anger, hurt, and confusion. My husband tried to comfort me, but I couldn't even bring myself to talk about it. How could I explain that the very foundation of my life had been shattered? In the weeks that followed, I struggled to come to terms with the truth. My relationship with Sophia, once so close, felt irreparably damaged. Every time I looked at her, I saw betrayal. And my mom, I couldn't even bear to speak to her. Every word of love, every family story she had ever told us, now felt tainted. Sometimes I wonder if our family can ever recover from this. Trust once broken is almost impossible to repair. Family is supposed to be built on love, honesty, and loyalty. But now all I see are the cracks in the foundation, and I don't know if they can ever be. My mother's hidden past unveiled a family I never knew existed. Growing up, I believed my mother, Linda, was an open book. She was the constant in my life, the one person I thought I understood completely. After my father passed away when I was just 3, she became everything to me. My mother, father, and best friend. Her strength inspired me, and her sacrifices shaped who I am. But a single rainy afternoon shattered my perception and revealed a part of her life she had kept buried for decades. It started innocently enough. We were cleaning out the attic, a space we rarely visited. Dust motes danced in the dim light filtering through the tiny window, and the air smelled of forgotten memories. As we sorted through boxes filled with old photo albums, faded letters, and knickknacks, I stumbled upon something that stood out. A small, weathered leather journal tied with a faded ribbon. It felt heavy in my hands, as though it carried the weight of untold stories. "Mom, what's this?" I asked, holding it up. Her eyes darted to the journal, and her expression shifted. For a fleeting moment, I saw something raw: fear, pain, and perhaps guilt. "Oh, that's nothing," she said, her voice too casual. "Just some scribbles from my college days." But curiosity burned within me. Ignoring her dismissive tone, I carefully untied the ribbon and opened the journal. The pages were filled with her handwriting, neater and more delicate than the notes she scribbled on grocery lists. The entries were dated in the late 1970s, and one name appeared repeatedly: Samuel. Each mention of him was laced with emotion: love, longing, and heartbreak. "Who's Samuel?" I asked, my voice trembling slightly. My mother hesitated, then sighed deeply, sitting down on an old trunk. "Samuel was my first love," she admitted, her voice tinged with nostalgia and sadness. "We met in college. He was everything to me: kind, smart, funny. We planned our future together, but life had other plans." Her words painted a picture of young love, vibrant and full of promise, only to be torn apart by circumstances beyond their control. Samuel had been drafted into the military during a volatile time. They exchanged letters, each one brimming with hope and devotion, but as the years passed, the letters dwindled. Eventually, they lost touch. As I turned the pages, the story took a heartbreaking turn. An entry from 1980 revealed something I could never have imagined. My mother had given birth to a child, a son, fathered by Samuel. She described the joy of holding him for the first time and the unbearable pain of giving him up for adoption. She had been young, alone, and overwhelmed, and she believed it was the best choice for him. "Mom," I whispered, tears streaming down my face. "You had a son?" She nodded, her own tears falling freely. "I did. I was barely 22, with no family support and no way to provide for him. Giving him up was the hardest thing I've ever done, but I thought it was the only way to give him a better life." The revelation hit me like a tidal wave. I had a half-brother somewhere out there, a part of my family I had never known. The thought was both exhilarating and devastating. Questions flooded my mind. Who was he? What kind of life had he lived? Did he know about us? Did he ever think about our mother? "Do you know where he is?" I asked, desperation creeping into my voice. She shook her head. "It was a closed adoption. I wasn't allowed to know anything about him. All I could do was hope he was loved and cared for." Determined to find him, I threw myself into the search. I combed through online databases, contacted adoption agencies, and even hired a private investigator. Each step felt like chasing a ghost, but I refused to give up. My mother's pain fueled my resolve. Months later, the investigator called. "I think I found him," he said. "His name is Michael. He lives a few states away." Heart pounding, I reached out to Michael. My message was cautious, respectful, and filled with hope. To my relief, he responded warmly, curious but hesitant. We agreed to meet at a cafe halfway between our cities. When I saw him for the first time, it was like looking at a mirror of our mother's youth. He had her eyes, her smile, and an air of quiet strength. We talked for hours, sharing stories and piecing together the fragments of our lives. He had been raised by loving adoptive parents, but had always wondered about his biological family. Introducing Michael to our mother was an emotional reunion that defied words. She wept as she embraced him, apologizing for the years they had lost. But Michael, with a grace that left me in awe, reassured her. He thanked her for the life she had given him and expressed his gratitude for this second chance to connect. In the weeks that followed, our family grew in ways I never thought possible. Michael became a cherished part of our lives, bringing joy, laughter, and a sense of completeness we hadn't known we were missing. My mother's hidden past, once a source of pain, became a bridge to healing and connection. This journey taught me that family is not just about the people we grow up with. It's about the bonds we form, the truths we uncover, and the love that endures despite time and distance. My mother's courage to face her past gave us all a future filled with hope and unity.